Hi, Blade Angel here, and welcome back to my series of supercars that couldn't be. Today in this video, we'll be talking about one of my childhood favorites, the Ford GT90. The Ford GT90 was designed in 1995 with the intent of being the successor to the Ford GT40. Of course, the GT70 also does exist, but the GT70 was more of an off-road rally car. The GT90 aimed to bring back the traditional heritage that the GT40 laid out, in the sense that it was going to be more of a road car or possibly track car. Unfortunately, we won't really know that, because it was never put into production, but it did aim to be the world's fastest road car, and it definitely did have the numbers to back it up. It has 720 horsepower with 660 foot-pounds of torque. It claimed top speed of 253 miles an hour, but it was professionally estimated to only be around 235 miles an hour. It has a 3.10 to 60 time, which is a very impressive number considering it's a rear-wheel drive setup with a 5-speed manual. That's right, a 5-speed, not a 6-speed. Quite inadequate if you ask me for a car of this power. But the fact that it's a manual from the Jaguar XJ220 definitely did show some heart. I mean, I almost miss how many cars nowadays don't really have manuals. Aside from that, it wasn't the only thing I borrowed from the XJ220. It also features the same chassis of the XJ220. The car weighs around 3,200 pounds or 1,451 kilograms. The engine is quite the thing. It is a 6-liter V12 quad turbo. If you've watched my Chrysler Me 412 video, that should sound very familiar. Don't fret, it's not the same engine. If anything, it's far from it, in the sense that this engine was made by taking, get this, two V8s that were then truncated into two V6s, which were then paired together linearly to form a V12. So they were not paired side by side, otherwise that would form a W12. And this car is a B12, not a W12. So just to reiterate everything, it's a 6-liter quad turbo dual overhead cam V12 with 48 valves that was formed by taking two V8s and truncating them into two V6s and pairing them to make a V12. The rear of the car does feature a cool exhaust, in my opinion. That triangle setup is really cool, and the brake lights are really cool too. I mean, a lot of people probably don't like them, but I love the whole triangle thing it has going on. And the exhaust apparently got so hot that it would actually melt the bodywork. So what they had to do was they armored it with ceramic around the edges, and that is really cool in my opinion, and that definitely is respectable on the engineer's behalf. The interior was very blue, as said by many people. It is blue, not purple. I'm kind of colorblind that, but many people who actually have real-life footage of it have confirmed that it's blue. The car was featured in a few games like Gran Turismo 2, which is one of my childhood favorites. In Gran Turismo 2, it stated to only have a value of $125,000. The car cost $3 million to make for one off prototype. However, Ford did actually plan to sell the car for only around $100,000 for its actual production. So that number does have some truth from this game. And if you ask me, that's a really cheap number, actually. I mean, it almost makes me want to go back in time to make a time machine to go buy this dang thing. But that's assuming that I first have to change the course of history and make the car actually go into production, and that's not going to happen, unfortunately. The car, in my opinion, has a very timeless design. It's very simple and something that lacks in most modern supercars, aside from the manual transmission. A lot of modern supercars just seem way too over-designed. Like, it's one thing to design for aerodynamics, and it's another thing to just make cars look like overly curvy, overly try-hard, overly edgy pieces of crap, basically. But this car was very simple. If I had to say my favorite era of cars, it would definitely be supercars would be the 90s to the early 2000s. Or maybe a little later in 2000, the Salient F7 and the Noble, which is 2010, so I just kind of screwed what I said over there. But regardless, the GT90 is a beautiful car in my opinion. Another thing that I did forget to mention is that the car's chassis from the XJ220 actually was not able to handle the quad turbos. So the production model that was made, or the one-off model that was made, I should say, did not actually have any turbos on it, or working turbos, I should say. This meant that the car's horsepower was a lot lower than what it was actually aiming to be, and this was done out of fear that they probably didn't think the XJ220's chassis would properly be able to take all that power. That is, of course, up to debate in the sense that, I definitely think Ford was planning on making their own chassis, and they were simply borrowing the XJ220s for the sake of getting a one-off production model to gain investors. Unfortunately, too little, too late, the car was never made. Other than that, I definitely enjoy making this series, and I love doing the research to make it, but I'll probably make a different series about a whole bunch of other supercars. Other than that, thank you for watching. Blade Angel out.